When Amara moved into the little house at the end of the street, she thought she had finally found peace. At 25 years old, she was tired of crowded apartments, noisy neighbors, and living in places that never truly felt like home. So when she found the old house, she didn't hesitate. It wasn't perfect. The walls were old, the wooden doors creaked whenever the wind blew, and a huge tree stood beside her bedroom, its branches stretching toward the roof. But the neighborhood was quiet, very quiet, and that was exactly what Amara wanted. On her first evening, she unpacked her belongings, arranged her clothes, cleaned the living room, and finally sat down on her bed. She looked around the room and smiled. For the first time in a very long time, Amara felt at peace. She believed she had finally found a place she could call home. But what Amara didn't know was that the house had a secret that had been waiting for her, and before long, that secret was going to find her.
That night, Amara went to bed early. The house was completely silent. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees, while crickets sang in the darkness. Amara slept peacefully, until the clock beside her bed changed to midnight. Then, she heard it. Knock. 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 Amara's eyes opened. She slowly sat up in bed. For several seconds, she listened. Nothing. Then it came again. Knock. 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 Someone was at her door. Amara climbed out of bed and slowly walked into the hallway. Who is there? There was no answer. She looked through the glass beside the door. The street was empty. Nobody was there. After a few minutes, she convinced herself that perhaps someone had made a mistake. She locked the door and returned to bed. She didn't know it yet, but that was only the beginning. The next night, it happened again. Exactly midnight. 3 knocks. The night after that, the same thing. And the night after that, every single night. Knock. 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 At first, Amara was simply annoyed. Then, she became nervous. And eventually, she became afraid. She began checking the clock before midnight. She would sit in bed and stare at the numbers as they changed. 11:57. 11:58. 11:59. And then, midnight. 3 knocks. Always 3. Never 2. Never 4. 3. Amara began wondering who could possibly be doing this. And more importantly, how did they always know exactly when to come? One morning, Amara decided to ask her landlady, Mama ESI. Mama ESI was an elderly woman who had lived in the neighborhood for decades. Amara found her sitting outside with a cup of tea. Mama ESI. I need to ask you something. Mama ESI looked at her. What is it? Someone has been knocking on my door every night. Mama ESI stopped drinking. She slowly placed the cup on the table. At what time? Midnight. Mama ESI stared at her. Always 3 knocks. For a moment, Mama ESI said nothing. Then she asked quietly, has the person spoken to you? Amara shook her head. Not until recently. Mama ESI's face suddenly became serious. Amara, whatever you hear tonight, don't open that door. Amara frowned. Why? Mama ESI looked toward the old house. But she didn't answer. Instead, she simply said, promise me. That night, Amara decided to stay awake. She sat on her bed and watched the clock. 11:45. 11:50. 11:55. 11:59. Her heart began beating faster. Then, the clock changed. Midnight. Knock. 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 Amara slowly stood up. She walked toward the front door. She didn't touch it. She simply stood there and listened. Then something happened that had never happened before.